so yeah, we're going to look at the next band. There's 3 bands that we look at with the person facing up, 2 or 3 with the person facing down, and 1 on their side. And of course, we can access the bands from different positions, but there's just optimal. Yeah. So the next one is going to be I call it a delta band, and the word delta is referring more to like the delta of a river. You know, people talk about the Mississippi River or the rivers in Bangladesh, you know, and they got this delta, and so you got the main part of the river, but then it comes out into like a fork. Like similar, you know, you got a fork and it's like that, and then it becomes one. Okay. Well, I call that the delta band because this band here, because it's like a fork or a delta, okay? And it's tension coming from the tops of these toes and the sides of these toes, all then becoming one right up through here, joining, right? And then it's going to come up. So it comes from, one of the major areas it comes from is this tendon here. You can see that tendon from the big toe joining into here. Its origins are just underneath the nail here. Now we have to be very careful. We don't want to work into the nail bed. That'll cause a lot of back pain. But we want to get close enough that we're actually getting the bottom of the nail bed here. And again, that can be done with a tool or it can be done with our thumb. And we would then start and work into releasing all this. You can see she's good at breathing. And we would work up that band and release that right up and follow it into here. But tension also is going to come from these 2 toes. So we could, you know, give them a little pull, and it's going to come from, again, across the top, coming up through here, and across the top here, and coming up through here. But it also is going to come from the sides of the toe. Okay, so it's going to come from across the top, from right in here, just underneath that nail bed there. Okay, we don't want to work into the nail bed itself. We want to start just below that. And that's then going to be following it up. But again, we need something more precise. You can see how big my thumb is compared to something like a chopstick or a smaller tool. Eventually, as people become experienced, they're wanting to use something more precise than our fingers. That's where we would use certain tools to get right into this detail through here. Loosen up the roots in here, then follow that up right up into here, and the same in here. We would come in just below there, work along here, and up into here. And the same with this toe, up into here. And now there's also tension coming from the inner side of the big toe through here. And then we can't feel it from here, but it's going to come in between here. And so there's a nice spot right in here, which eventually we can do joint adjustments on that big toe. And that's going to then add into this delta as well. Now the origins of this side of this toe are going to be from right in here and then along the edge here. And you can see, even with her, there's a slight curvature of the toe here. That's going to show quite a lot of tension on that side, and it's going to be quite intense through here. Okay. Now, also tension is going to come from the side of this toe, and this side of this toe, and this side of this toe, and this side of this toe, all of which adds up to become this tension right across here. So again, on this side of the bone, it can become so tight that it feels like bone, but it should, in a person who's like maybe 7, 8, or 8 out of 10 or less tight, it shouldn't move. If somebody's 9 or 10 out of 10 tight, it'll feel so tight that it's like the bone. You can see right here, here's her bone, and here's the tension. Okay? That's then going to follow up, again, right beside. Here's her bone, and here's the tension. Okay? Bone, tension. And then it comes into the knee, and across the top, up into here. Through the front of the hip here, into here, and you can feel it quite strongly in here, and right up here, and on the right side it's going to come right up into the area of the liver. All right, so here is your big toe belly band, and here is that delta band. And you can see how I'm just rolling over that. So she's reasonably tight in there. All right, so we'll review that one again. That's gonna come from these three toes, the top, the side, the top, and the two sides, top and the two sides, all coming in into here. So this is the most important aspect of the band, the toes themselves, loosening up here, loosening up through here, loosening up through here. This takes some time, it's not easy. Many people are tight in this area of their toe. It takes a lot of time to release a big toe. I've worked on big toes for 3 hours, just on the big toe before, to really properly loosen it. Some people's big toes can be extremely tight. And if you don't loosen up the big toe, you won't loosen up their leg, you won't loosen up their abdominal tension, and you won't get that release. Of course, there's the other aspect of the release is the person breathing and letting go. We can't just work here without them letting it go. We're stirring things up, they're letting it out. All right, so partnership model of medicine. But we need to get things out from the roots. And that's why over the 28 years, I suppose, I've been practicing now, I have come up and really emphasized in the last 7 to 10 years in particular, coming from the roots of tension, okay? So really getting in, instead of trying to battle up here where most massage therapists spend most of their time on the big muscles of the body, I'm spending my time on the detail, on the fine detail, in fact, what I call micro tension. Micro means small, macro means big, and the micro tension is all this fine detail in the toes, right? Which is the real roots, okay, or the real anchor points of the higher up tension. I don't like the idea of people just talk about, I got a knot somewhere, unless they look at the fact that that knot is connected to a band of tension, okay? It's not really a knot, I would call it a blockage. A knot implies that it's gonna go up like this and around and that sort of thing. I think the word blockage is better than the word knot, okay? Because it's more like something's just jammed, more like a jammed, you know, pipe, for example. You know, if we, with plumbing, you know, if you get a pipe that becomes congested, it no longer drains, or no longer water can't go through it, you know? And that's what these bands are more like. If we're looking at some sort of equivalent to that, we're looking at, you know, well, obviously they're different because they're also containing like electrical energy. So it's like an electrical circuit as well that's opened up. And if we have a circuit breaker somewhere along there, but it's a combination if we look at those two analogies of plumbing and electricity.
So if the band's like so,
yeah,
and then we have these potential blockages along them,
yeah,
this is so important because it's the entrance and exit.
Yeah, well that's it. You
so
can't go any further
here,
than right here.
None of this is going to move.
That's right.
It's just the block. You have to get the blockage.
Yeah, from the ends of the block. You have to the ends of it and then follow it through and make the whole thing unblock. Because it's like anchor points. You know, people talk about like that domino theory. Once one goes, they all start to go. But if one's held at the end, these ones won't release, no matter how much you push. It's not, you know, a lot of the times I've seen people just try and use force. And what they do is they just bruise that area and they make it really sore. And it doesn't actually let go. It's about coaxing or encouraging tension to let go by understanding how it's held and getting one point, then the next one goes. And that's what's taken so many years for me to understand in more and more detail, you know. And so understanding how tension exists in the body and how we can get rid of it, causing the least amount of bad pain.
So if you're having a tough time getting rid of tension in, say, this area,
yeah,
the first thing you look at is here.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because this probably is the reason why this is.
That's right. That's right. Rather than just trying to push it or force it or anything, which is just going to cause bad pain and bruising and soreness the next day. You come to the source of it. You could just trace it down. You can go, okay, oh, is this where the tension is? And you're like, yeah, I really feel that blockage there. And you're like, okay, it's coming all the way down. And even when you're diagnosing and when you're treating people, and some people will come and they'll go, yeah, I've got a really tight thigh, or I've got a tight abdomen, or, you know, whatever it may be, then you can trace it for them. If somebody's tight here, we would then trace it. But also, if we're diagnosing and somebody just comes in and is like, I'm feeling stressed out, or, you know, I've got emotional issues, this band in particular is one of the ones containing a lot of emotional issues, but these can as well. You know, and a lot of issues, in particular, when I feel around somebody's belly right here, and I feel that tightness, sometimes I'll actually feel like what I call a rock in the belly. And that to me signifies a lot of blocked energy right in a core aspect of who the person is. And this one relates a lot to feelings of self and self-worth.
So if you had a rock in the belly,
yeah.
What symptoms would a person experience?
First of all, tiredness and lack of energy, but more so not being in touch with who they really are. Like having to feel like they've got to be somebody that they're not in order to be liked. I see that as the most common symptom. So anybody suffering from, say, anorexia, anybody suffering, it's very common in a lot of people who are trying to, you know, get their definition of who they are from the external world and approval from the external world. That's what I see on an emotional level as being one of the symptoms. It's kind of like this, and plus anxiety, which is there because they're so out of touch with who they are, and they're, you know, so it's this, one is that, you know, so when people are very much concerned with, I've got to be attractive, you know, you see it a lot in younger women, you see it a lot in thinner people who are, you know, lacking self-esteem, lacking self-worth, and having to get that self-worth from other people. This is such a core, it's very core is what I see about this one, and it produces the strongest emotional releases and huge, you know, and underlying anxiety, panic attacks, anxiety, I would all relate to that, and a lack of just being at peace with who you are.
And then how about what type of tensions might they feel in their body if they're like a,
well, obviously
that's a very deep level. A lot of people aren't that aware, even myself not that aware of how sensitive I am to other people's opinions like that. It's a tough one to kind of,
yeah.
Well, so is there a more of a gross symptom where I would feel like where I would, you know what I mean?
Well, as I say, it comes right up into the thyroid, so people might have problems with their thyroid gland. It also comes right up into where we talk, so people could be having difficulty expressing themselves. So those are, but on a physical level also it may produce digestive problems, all right, because it's coming straight through the digestive tract. And it may produce knee problems, all right. It could produce groin problems because it comes right through the groin. And it can produce, you know, a pulling in the ankle. It can produce a pulling in the side of the foot where people get tension, you know, all through this area here.
I see.
Yeah. So those are some of the physical symptoms, as well as it'll actually come up, even though we can say, oh, it sort of stops here. Energetically, it continues up and into this area. All right. So we can, when we see this sort of thing where people get these lines here, and this scowling or this analytical thing, in what we in Ayurveda, that area is the third eye chakra. We want to open that area up, and so certain headaches that are centered in the front of the head could be associated with this band. Plus, I'm going to show you the big toe sacrum, what I call the big toe sacrum band that comes up the back here. So those two bands can be associated with anything in this middle area of the body. So it goes right on up. So yeah, headaches.
Headaches is key.
Headaches is a key, but in Chinese medicine there can be like 10 different reasons for headaches.
Yeah.
Same with this system. Okay, if we got headaches on the side of our head, that's going to be a different band.
Right.
And we diagnose. Neck is a great area to diagnose as well, which band is tight, because that could then be coming from the arm. It could be coming from the leg. So we got to figure out which band is tight that's causing these headaches. So those are some of the physical areas, you know. And then when it comes to this one, we could look at things like, so this delta band, shin splints, okay, so tightness in that shin area, all can be associated with the toes. Again, knee problems, all right, you know, different knee, different hip problems, okay, and digestive problems, okay. You know, some angers and things like that as well, but coming straight up through here as well, and then even pulling slightly forward on the shoulder, and it also comes up into the front of the
So the shoulders getting pulled forward, what kind of things would,
I would be
what kind
looking
of symptoms would someone, posture work,
postural. You'll
a
see.
lot of times we're not aware of our posture.
That's right. I always look. One of the main diagnostic areas I look for in people is this area right around the sternum, which in Ayurveda is our heart chakra. All right. If that area is like this and it's pulled forward, we can see that the shoulders then are pulled forward, which will produce this poking forward of the shoulder here. You know, whereas we ideally want that to open up so that the heart chakra can kind of come out, you know, which will then enable us to, you know, have an open heart, as we say in English, you know. So, but in terms of the actual physical aspects of the shoulder, yeah, when it's like that, we're looking at these frontal bands, which is this one here, which I just showed you, the delta mostly, and then also the upper little toe band, which I'm about to show you. But a lot of it also comes from bands in the hand, okay, bands that come up into the arms. So the hands being tight can also then make the shoulders go like this. And if we have a combination of tension coming up, mixing with tension coming in from the hand, we can get like a frozen shoulder.
I see.
Yeah.
So a person comes with a frozen shoulder, you maybe check here, see if there's anything obvious.
Yeah, and then-
check the hand, see if
Yeah.
anything's going on there.
Yeah.
So very quickly you can assess.
Yeah, what's your plan? What's your strategy? I always call that my strategy.
And then you're saving a ton of time
Right.
and
So just
of course,
messing
they're
around.
happy because it's
Yeah.
efficient.
Efficient, yeah. Instead of either doing what I call going through the motions, which is producing an assembly line massage, which is what most massage schools are teaching. You know, you do 2 strokes this way, 1 stroke that way, same treatment for everybody, assembly line treatment. We're actually making the massage suit the person. So quick diagnosis, the key to being an exceptionally effective therapist is your diagnosis, then your treatment. So you need to know, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? And then you go, this is what my plan is, how am I gonna get rid of tension? Tension's causing problems. The more tension, the more problems. So we need to figure out what is if it's a problem that massage can help. So if somebody's tight in the shoulder, I can come and diagnose and I go, okay, well that's pretty tight, this is pretty tight, right in here, this is pretty tight, and then I could diagnose through here, how's that affecting through here, which is gonna then affect through here, okay?
So it's like only 4 or 5 spots.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more, yeah.
As far as
6,
yeah, quick.
That's right, quick diagnosis, because I can diagnose so quickly through the arms here and feel each of the different bands come right up into here. I immediately go, well, that one feels tight, all right? And that's gonna then come from her thumb. Then I could start to work, and I could diagnose through here. I could work on the thumb, right into the tip of it, work the ends of the bands, follow it up, create a big release, get that loose, then any tension that's